So, speaking of the next big triggers, and you spoke of private investment, but I would like to specifically ask you about banking consolidation, because that's been a big theme that you've been trying to gather momentum on. Is that being pushed at all at this point in time, or do you believe till you address the issues plaguing the banking sector, it's been put on the back burner?
Initially, there was a thinking after the SBI amalgamation that took place to wait for the rest till the health of the banks improves. We've now re-looked at the whole system, and there are some institutions within the public sector banks which can be consolidated, even under the present circumstances. We are seriously examining them.
Things like IDBI Bank, so you and I had this conversation in Hong Kong over 2 years ago, but nothing's moved.
No, IDBI, we moved substantially. And two facts about IDBI, which are both in public domain. We wanted IDBI to, the government holding to come down below 49%, below 50%. But there were two stiff challenges. The first being that the bank's balance sheets are not in the best shape. So do you sell when the going is bad, or do you improve the health and sell it? Any commercial prudence will tell you that you improve the health and then sell it. We've had a change of leadership, therefore, in the IDBI itself. The second is a complication which does exist. The IDBI bank is also the owner of very large amount of immovable property, particularly in Mumbai and elsewhere. Can you, without segregating that, sell just the banking system, which at the present stage is not in the best of health, and therefore that process got slowed down a little. But as far as consolidation in some other areas is concerned, it's at a fairly advanced stage.
So we can expect something to happen in this financial year?
Let me. Once we are through with our analysis, we'll come out with an appropriate announcement.
May I ask you a follow-up question on that, sir? And this has to do with the speculation around Axis Bank, where the government via Suti has a significant stake. Has there been any conversation, formally, informally, on the future as far as Axis Bank is concerned?
Well, I think I see a lot of speculation in the media. I don't think there is anything sacrosanct by government continuing to hold some shares in Axis Bank. We are quite open. But handing it over to, selling our shares to any particular party, or an individual or a company, I don't think there's been any discussion as yet.
Would you be open to that, were it to come to that?
I won't comment off the cuff.
Okay. Let me move to talk to you about defense, sir, because you're managing both finance as well as the defense portfolio. The strategic partnership policy has now been unveiled, 17-page document, which everyone is going over. Do you believe that this is now going to result in forward movement in the defense sector?
I had in my very first budget announced that 49% would be the FDI allowed. But then opening the door and allowing FDI itself doesn't bring in FDI. Defense is an industry where there is only one buyer, the government of India. Why would anybody set up a plant and machinery and start manufacturing in India unless he has a reasonable expectation of getting an order? And therefore, in addition to the public sector, because public sector also has a great capacity in the defense sector, different platforms of the defense, let's have a strategic partner from the private sector in each one of these sectors who's an Indian party. He can have a tie-up whether through FDI or for transfer of technology with a foreign party. And therefore, the strategic partnership policy had to be prepared. It was pending for years. So I was quite keen in my very first 2 months in the Defense Ministry to make sure that it gets released. And we were able to work out a near consensus on that issue within the ministry and then report it to the cabinet.
So there are some concerns, and please correct me if I'm wrong, on whether an Indian company, for instance, let me just use Mahindra as an example because they have expressed interest in the strategic partnership route. Could they tie up with BEL, for instance, for helicopters as well as Airbus for helicopters? Would that, because that is a reservation that the foreign partners have, that an Indian company may be allowed to even tie up with two and make a bid?
You see, I think the document is absolutely clear. And within, we will have a lot of flexibility as far as the document is concerned. The idea is, if you have capacities in India, then you allow that Indian capacity with the strength of a technology which belongs to obviously international groups to come in. Now, once somebody comes up with a proposal, I normally expect one Indian party to have one foreign partner in a particular deal, because one company can only become strategic partner on one platform. We don't want anybody to monopolize it.
That's right.
And therefore, ordinarily it would be one, but Abhike will certainly examine it if he, in a particular platform, he wants multiple.
On the FICV, sir, because that has been pending now since December, I understand that the down selection has happened of at least 3 companies at this point in time. When can we expect clarity as far as the FICV is concerned?
Well, these are issues which will come up before the appropriate forum that we have for discussion. And I won't like to give a time.
What would be the next big items that you're going to work on? I know FDI liberalization, this was a budget announcement that you had made. It is awaiting, or several things, whether tweaking of the FDI retail policy, for instance, or the food retail policy specifically, are awaiting cabinet approval.
Well, these are all matters. These are all matters which are pending discussion. Unless the cabinet takes a firm view of this, we can't really make an announcement. I think as far as the finance ministry, my concentration today is really for the to look at the banks and the private sector investment. That's where the bullseye is. That's where the bullseye is.
So my final question to you, sir. What is the hope in terms of being able to resuscitate private investment? Because that continues to elude you.
Well,
You've been telling the private sector to start opening up.
Well, I don't think the situation, I don't think we are in a depressing situation, for the reason that notwithstanding all the challenges which we've had, we still have a very reasonable growth rate. And I think with the kind of reforms which have gone up, we can only grow higher.
A final question on the comments that have come in from President Trump, calling out India and China in an effort to present an argument for why the U.S. should withdraw from the Paris Accord.
Well, I think,
do you believe that that will weigh on the relations?
It was essentially a part of the accord that the developing world would pay for the technologies which would be required to upgrade the capacity of other countries as far as climate change is concerned. And the rationale behind this was that the developed world is the one which has harmed the environment the most. And therefore, this is not an argument which was created by India or China.
Sure.
There's a very large part of the world which committed to it.
Do you believe this will weigh on the relation between us and the U.S.?
Well, I think our relationships are very mature. Even if there are areas where we look in different ways, a maturity of a relationship is that you can still continue to have a great relationship.
Mr. Jaitley, always a pleasure speaking with you, sir. Thank you very much for joining us on CNBC TV 18. Appreciate your time. With that, it is time for us to wrap up this CNBC TV 18 special from all of us here. Goodbye. Many thanks for watching.